I was about to propose to Jessica after 3 wonderful years together. I had the perfect ring, the perfect plan, and what I thought was the perfect relationship. My brother Andrew had always been my closest friend, my confidant through our challenging childhood. I trusted them both completely. Then I came home early on our anniversary, planning to surprise her with dinner. Instead, I found them tangled in our bed, my brother and my fiancée betraying me in the worst possible way. Treason has a scent, and it smelled like her perfume on his skin. Before I tell you about the devastating betrayal by the two people I trusted most, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you want to hear true stories about how I overcame unimaginable heartbreak. Growing up, Andrew was always the golden child. 4 years older, athletic, charming, and somehow exempt from the strict rules our parents enforced on me. Despite this inequality, we maintained a close bond. When our parents fought, which was often, we would hide in our shared bedroom, Andrew telling me stories to drown out their screams. I idolized him, believing he would always protect me. After college, I moved to Boston and built a successful career in software development. I was 27 when I met Jessica at a friend's wedding. She was the photographer, constantly moving around, capturing moments while I stood awkwardly in my too tight rental tuxedo. When she approached me at the bar and asked to take my picture, I fumbled with my drink and nearly spilled it. Instead of mocking my clumsiness, she laughed warmly and helped me fix my crooked tie. That small act of kindness sparked something between us. Jessica was everything I had ever wanted: intelligent, creative, compassionate. She listened when I spoke about my childhood, about the constant feeling of inadequacy around my parents. For the first time, I felt truly seen by someone. Our relationship progressed naturally, and within 6 months, she had moved into my apartment. Andrew met Jessica during a holiday dinner at my place. They seemed to get along well, which pleased me. My brother approved of my choice, and Jessica enjoyed his company. I never imagined their friendliness would evolve into something sinister. After 3 years together, I decided to propose. I spent months saving for the perfect ring, a 1 carat diamond with a vintage setting that matched her aesthetic. I planned a weekend getaway to Vermont, where we would stay at a cabin near the lake she always talked about visiting. Everything was arranged down to the smallest detail. 2 weeks before our trip, I noticed subtle changes. Jessica became protective of her phone, turning it face down whenever I entered the room. She worked late more often, coming home with vague explanations about client meetings. Andrew suddenly became interested in my schedule, asking casual questions about my work hours and travel plans. I dismissed these warning signs, attributing them to stress or my own paranoia. Andrew had recently broken up with his girlfriend and needed someone to talk to. Jessica was busy with a major photography exhibition. There were logical explanations for everything. On our third anniversary, I decided to surprise Jessica by coming home early. I bought her favorite flowers, ordered dinner from the restaurant where we had our first date, and even cleaned the apartment, which was usually her domain. I wanted everything to be perfect, a prelude to the proposal I had planned. When I opened our bedroom door, time stopped. There they were, my brother and my girlfriend, naked in our bed. The sheets I had washed that morning were tangled around them. A bottle of wine I had been saving for a special occasion sat empty on the nightstand. The shock rendered me speechless. Jessica scrambled to cover herself, her face a mask of horror and shame. Andrew jumped up, reaching for his scattered clothes, stammering excuses that failed to form coherent sentences. I stood frozen in the doorway, flowers still clutched in my hand as my world imploded around me. Everything I believed about love, family, and loyalty shattered in that single moment. The pain was physical, a crushing weight on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. When I finally found my voice, I asked only one question: how long? Their answer destroyed whatever remained of my heart. 6 months. They had been sneaking around behind my back for half a year. Every late night, every sudden weekend plan, every time Andrew came over when I was away, they had been betraying me. The revelation sent me staggering backward, my mind struggling to recalibrate my entire reality. Jessica sobbed as she hastily dressed, mascara streaking down her face. She tried to touch my arm, but I recoiled as if her fingers were made of fire. Andrew stood shirtless, his expression a mixture of guilt and defiance that made my stomach turn. They both started talking at once, a cacophony of excuses and blame. Jessica claimed I had been emotionally distant, too focused on work. Andrew said it just happened, that they never meant to hurt me. The audacity of their justifications only intensified my rage and pain. I told them to get out. When they hesitated, I hurled the flowers against the wall, watching as petals scattered across the floor like drops of blood. Only then did they gather their remaining belongings and leave Jessica still attempting to explain between sobs. Once alone, I called my mother, seeking the comfort I desperately needed. Her response left me stunned. Instead of outrage on my behalf, she sighed deeply and said, "We need to discuss this as a family. These things happen, Donovan. Andrew is your brother." I could not believe what I was hearing. These things happen, as if finding your brother in bed with your soon-to-be fiancé was a common occurrence like a flat tire or a power outage. The dismissal in her tone crushed whatever hope I had for support. 3 days later, I found myself sitting in my parents' living room, surrounded by family who seemed to view me as the problem. My father, stern-faced as always, lectured me about forgiveness. My mother hovered nearby, nodding in agreement. Andrew sat across from me, head bowed in what appeared to be remorse but felt like a performance. Jessica had been invited too, a courtesy that felt like another betrayal. She sat next to Andrew, their hands occasionally brushing against each other in what they thought were subtle gestures of comfort. The sight made bile rise in my throat. During this family intervention, I learned the full extent of their deception. Their affair began at my birthday party in my own apartment while I was busy entertaining other guests. My brother had pursued my girlfriend under my own roof, and she had welcomed his advances. What hurt most was the collective assumption that I should forgive them. My Aunt Patricia spoke about family bonds being unbreakable. My cousin Thomas mentioned other couples who had overcome infidelity. No one acknowledged the unique cruelty of being betrayed by my brother and partner simultaneously. When I expressed my pain, my father dismissed it as melodrama. When I asked why Andrew was not being held accountable, my mother reminded me that he had always been sensitive and needed understanding. The double standard that had defined our childhood continued into adulthood. The final blow came when I discovered Andrew and Jessica were still seeing each other with my family, blessing their relationship. My mother had even invited Jessica for Sunday dinners, as if she remained part of the family despite her betrayal. The casual acceptance of their relationship felt like they were all conspiring to erase me from the narrative. I left that meeting knowing I had to cut ties with all of them. The family that should have been my sanctuary had become toxic ground where I could not heal. Their loyalty to Andrew at my expense was a pattern too ingrained to break. Only Troy, a colleague who became a friend during this ordeal, offered genuine support. He listened without judgment, helped me search for a new apartment, and gave me space to process my grief. His friendship became my lifeline in the darkest period of my life. 2 weeks after the family meeting, I accepted a transfer to our Seattle office. I needed physical distance, a new environment free from memories of betrayal. The morning I left Boston, I blocked my family phone numbers and social media accounts. It was time to rebuild my life from scratch. Seattle welcomed me with its constant rain, which matched my mood perfectly. I rented a small apartment downtown, walking distance to my new office. The physical act of arranging furniture and creating a new space helped distract from the emotional turmoil that still raged within me. The first month was the hardest. I worked long hours to avoid returning to an empty apartment. Sleep eluded me, and when it came, nightmares of Jessica and Andrew followed. I lost weight, my clothes hanging loose on my frame. Colleagues noticed but politely avoided asking questions about the shadows under my eyes. After 6 weeks of self-destruction, I finally admitted I needed help. The company offered therapy as part of our benefits package, and I scheduled an appointment with Dr. Sarah Richardson. Initially reluctant to share, I eventually opened up about the dual betrayal and family reaction. Her validation of my feelings was the first step toward healing. She helped me understand that cutting contact with my toxic family was not selfish, but necessary for my mental health. Through weekly sessions, I began to rebuild my sense of self-worth and establish boundaries. The process was painful but essential. Gradually, I developed a routine. Morning runs along the waterfront, focused work during the day, cooking classes in the evening, something I had always wanted to try but Jessica had dismissed as a waste of time. Each small accomplishment felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. My professional life flourished amid personal chaos. Without family obligations or relationship distractions, I channeled all my energy into work. I proposed a new software solution that caught the attention of upper management. 6 months after arriving broken in Seattle, I received a substantial promotion and equity in the company. As December approached, I felt stronger, more centered. The pain had not disappeared, but it had transformed into something manageable, a dull ache rather than a sharp stab. I had made new friends, created a new home, and established a new identity separate from the person who had been so thoroughly betrayed. Then my mother called. Somehow she had obtained my new number, likely through a distant relative I had forgotten to block. Her voice, trembling and tearful, pierced through my carefully constructed defenses. "Your father is not well, Donovan. The doctors say it might be his heart. We need you home for Christmas." Despite everything, concern for my father flooded through me. I had always sought his approval even when it seemed impossible to obtain. The thought of him seriously ill shook my resolve to maintain distance. My mother promised Andrew and Jessica would not be present. "This is about family, about your father," she insisted. "He misses you. We all do." Dr. Richardson cautioned me about re-entering toxic dynamics, but acknowledged that avoiding my father if he was truly ill might lead to regret later. We developed strategies for maintaining boundaries during the visit, including booking a hotel rather than staying in my childhood home. After much deliberation, I decided to return for Christmas. I purchased expensive gifts, partly from guilt, partly to demonstrate my success despite their lack of support. I booked a flight for December 23rd, planning to leave immediately after Christmas Day. When my taxi pulled up to the familiar suburban house decorated with the same holiday lights from my childhood nostalgia, mingled with apprehension, my mother greeted me with tears and embraces that felt both genuine and manipulative. My father, to my surprise, appeared robust and healthy, showing no signs of the heart condition my mother had described. As I entered the living room, my blood turned to ice. There, seated on the couch with matching sweaters and smug expressions, were Andrew and Jessica. Next to them sat my aunts, uncles, and cousins, all watching expectantly, as if awaiting my reaction to a surprise party. On Jessica's left hand gleamed a diamond ring. For several seconds I could not move or speak. The room swayed around me as I processed the elaborate trap I had walked into. My mother hovered nearby, her earlier tears now conspicuously absent. My father stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, expression stern, as if daring me to make a scene. Andrew rose first, approaching with an outstretched hand and a practiced speech about forgiveness and moving forward. Jessica remained, seated, her engagement ring catching the light from the Christmas tree, deliberately positioned to be noticed. "I want to welcome you home, Brother Andrew," said his voice, carrying the artificial warmth of a practiced speech. "We have all missed you." The collective tension in the room was palpable. Everyone watched, waiting for my reaction to this carefully orchestrated ambush disguised as a family reunion. The realization that my father's health crisis had been a complete fabrication to lure me back home made me physically ill. Before I could respond, my father announced he had given Andrew a substantial down payment for a house as an early wedding present. The same father who had refused to help with my college tuition, claiming financial hardship, had apparently found sufficient funds to purchase property for the brother who had betrayed me. My grandmother, who had remained silent until now, approached and patted my arm. "Forgiveness is the Christian way, Donovan. You always were stubborn, just like your grandfather. Andrew and Jessica made a mistake, but they love each other. You need to accept that and move on." The final blow came when Jessica stood smoothing her sweater over a slightly rounded belly. The implication was clear, though no one stated it directly. They expected me not only to forgive the betrayal, but to embrace my role as uncle to their child conceived during their affair. While everyone busied themselves with dinner preparations, Andrew cornered me in the hallway. His friendly facade dropped momentarily as he showed me his phone screen. On it were private photos of Jessica, and me, images I had thought were safely stored on my password-protected phone. "I have everything backed up," he said casually. "Mom and Dad really want this Christmas to go smoothly. Would be a shame if these got sent to your new boss or friends in Seattle." The threat was clear. My brother was blackmailing me to ensure my cooperation in their charade of family harmony. Something inside me, something that had been slowly rebuilding during my months in Seattle, hardened into resolve. I was done running, done being manipulated, done being the family scapegoat. During dinner, as everyone engaged in forced cheerfulness, I excused myself to retrieve something from my car. I returned with a small laptop, which I placed on the coffee table after the meal. While everyone gathered for dessert, I connected it to the television that dominated one wall of the living room. "I need to share something with everyone," I announced, my voice steadier than I had expected. Before Andrew could intervene, I played the recording. 3 months earlier, anticipating possible continued manipulation, I had hired a private investigator to monitor Andrew and Jessica. The audio captured them discussing their affair, Jessica admitting she had only been with me for financial security, Andrew boasting about how easily he had deceived me. More damning was Andrew's casual mention of other women he had pursued, including the girlfriends of his close friends. His pattern of betrayal extended far beyond me, revealing a disturbing history of predatory behavior that our family had consistently enabled and excused. As the recording played, the room grew deathly quiet. My mother stopped mid-sentence, dessert spoon suspended in air. My father's face reddened, not with anger at Andrew, but with embarrassment at having family secrets exposed. When the recording ended, I remained standing. No one would meet my eyes except my youngest cousin Katie, who looked at me with newfound respect. "That is not all," I continued. "Andrew hacked my phone and has been threatening to distribute private images if I do not play along with this farce. I have already filed a police report and retained an attorney. The blackmail attempt is documented and charges will be pressed if those images appear anywhere." The silence broke as several family members began speaking at once, some defending Andrew, others expressing shock. Jessica sat frozen, her earlier confidence evaporated in the face of public exposure. Finally, I addressed my father directly. "By the way, Dad, remember that software solution I developed that you called a waste of time? It just made me a millionaire. The company went public last month. I am now a major shareholder. I also purchased your mortgage from the bank. You now owe me, not them." My mother gasped, finally understanding the power shift that had occurred. The son they had dismissed and devalued now held financial leverage they could not ignore. My father, always concerned with appearances and status, looked physically ill at the revelation. "I did not come here for forgiveness," I told them. "I came to close this chapter completely. You have two options. Acknowledge the toxic dynamics in this family and commit to therapy, or I will foreclose on the house and press charges against Andrew for theft of personal data and blackmail." The stunned silence that followed my ultimatum was broken by Jessica, who suddenly stood and faced Andrew. "You told me he was broke," she hissed. "You said the software thing was failing. You said his company was worthless." The mask of devoted fiancée cracked completely as she turned to my parents. "He lied to me about everything. I never would have left Donovan if I knew he was going to be successful. Andrew has maxed out 3 credit cards. We are already behind on rent." Her mercenary motives laid bare before the entire family shocked even those who had supported their relationship. My mother stepped away from Jessica as if proximity itself might be contaminating. My father stared at Andrew with the first genuine look of disappointment I had ever seen directed at his favorite son. Andrew, cornered and exposed, reverted to the tactics that had always worked before. He began to cry, shoulders shaking, as he spoke about feeling overshadowed his entire life. How I was always the smart one, always the responsible one, how he felt invisible next to my achievements. He claimed his pursuit of Jessica had been driven by insecurity and jealousy rather than genuine feeling. His performance fell flat this time. The evidence of calculated manipulation was too overwhelming to be excused as emotional weakness. The family that had always rushed to comfort him now watched with uncomfortable recognition of their role in enabling his behavior. I left them to their reckoning, walking out into the snowy night with a lightness I had not felt in nearly a year. The confrontation had not given me joy, but it had provided closure. I checked into my hotel, slept deeply for the first time in months, and flew back to Seattle the next morning. In the year that followed, changes cascaded through my life and my estranged family. Andrew and Jessica's relationship imploded spectacularly within weeks. Without my parents' financial support, and with Andrew's mounting debts exposed, their fantasy crumbled under the weight of reality. The pregnancy, it turned out, had been a lie designed to accelerate familial acceptance. My parents, facing the consequences of decades of dysfunctional favoritism, began family therapy. My mother called monthly, her apologies evolving from performative to genuine, as she confronted her own role in the family dynamics. My father, more resistant to change, nevertheless stopped enabling Andrew financially and began establishing boundaries. I maintained distance while cautiously rebuilding limited contact. Some relationships were permanently altered, but others showed potential for healthier reconnection. My youngest cousins visited Seattle in the summer, a tentative bridge between my new life and reformed family ties. As for me, the experience transformed my approach to relationships. I learned to recognize warning signs I had previously ignored. I established clear boundaries and expected respect from those who claimed to care about me. Most importantly, I developed a sense of self-worth, independent of family validation or romantic partnership. 6 months after the Christmas confrontation, I met Amanda at a charity event hosted by my company. An environmental lawyer with a quick wit and genuine warmth, she approached relationships with the same thoughtfulness and integrity I had come to value in myself. Our connection developed slowly, built on honesty and mutual respect. When I eventually shared my history of betrayal, Amanda listened without judgment. She understood my caution and never pushed for more than I was ready to give. With her, I learned that vulnerability could be strength rather than weakness when shared with someone worthy of trust. The most valuable lesson from my journey through betrayal was learning that self-respect must precede all other relationships. By standing firm in my worth, even when those closest to me failed to recognize it, I reclaimed power over my own life and happiness. True forgiveness, I discovered, is not about excusing harmful behavior or maintaining toxic relationships. It is about releasing the hold that betrayal has on your heart, freeing yourself to build something better from the ruins of what was lost. Sometimes the most loving choice you can make for yourself and others is to walk away and create boundaries that protect your peace. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who enabled harmful behavior? I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more about overcoming betrayal and building a life based on self-respect. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes, the family you choose becomes more important than the family you were born into. Share this message with someone who might need to hear that they deserve loyalty and respect, no matter what their blood relatives might say.